Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow With Us. Grow With Us is a podcast that focuses on the talent-focused mission of In Tulsa, a talent advising organization for startups, local businesses, and expanding corporations. My name is Evan Barton, and I will be your host each week, where I'll be joined by a guest who is making a difference in Tulsa by furthering our mission of creating equitable opportunities via technology, innovation, and strategic partnerships. This week, we are in conversation with consultant Lawrence MacAlpine, who will be chatting with me about tech mentorship, community engagements, and how to spot a visionary. Welcome, Lawrence. It's great to have you on Grow With Us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me here. It's good to be here.
I just want everyone to know maybe the behind the curtain on this, but in order to get Lawrence on this podcast, all I had to do was message him on Slack, and he was one message away, and now he's here.
Trying to be as available as possible,
Which is amazing. And I think that in a lot of ways, it kind of captures lots of people that I know in kind of this network and ecosystem, especially over at 36 Degrees North, which is great. Shout out to them. So Lawrence, thank you for being on. I definitely want to give you the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and kind of tell us your story in whatever way you feel comfortable.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. My story, well, it kind of starts back to when I was about 9 years old. I remember vividly putting on a little suit and tie in the mirror. I'd walk around the neighborhoods and I'd start knocking on doors like, hey, I'd like to mow your lawn. Would you let me? And they're like, oh, you're so cute. Yes. Then I go get my brothers to actually mow the lawn. And I keep knocking on doors. And that was kind of like my, diving into entrepreneurism at that point. But really kind of like my folks really positioned us like, hey, go out there and attack the world. You got this. It was really cool. Yeah, I think technology was really something I was always interested in because my father was into that. He had his own little computer shop doing that for a while. And growing up, I was, it's between film and tech. And I was like, I love these two things so much. One pays me better than the other, And I think tech won out for that reason initially. But, down the road, I'll start my own film company and do that. But for right now, I think as a tech consultant, kind of my journey was just like, I need to learn a bunch of stuff. I need to have a good skill set that I can help other people with. I really want to be providing as much value as I can to whomever I'm helping. And initially, when I first got started, I worked with, MSPs, smaller companies, larger companies, kind of built up into, 10,000, 20,000, organizations, enterprises over the years. And yeah, so kind of evolved into where I'm at today. Now I just basically work with tech startup visionaries who really want to get from A to revenue. And it's how do you make a startup positioned for growth, and like how do you get money starting to come in the door, and like how do you do all that? I've done it a bunch of times. I've had a lot of failures. And that's good. I think it hurts, but I think it helps you grow. And I would say that's kind of like the big picture. I've learned a lot of things along the way, and just super glad to be here in Tulsa.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that starting journey is so important. And I love that you pinpointed, it started with mowing lawns. I mean, sometimes the ideas are small, but the impact is big. Because look at you now.
Yeah, here I am.
You don't have to knock on doors anymore. But
it's true. Yeah, it's true.
You do just have to answer a Slack message whenever you
That's right. Every once in a while.
That's awesome. Well, kind of tell us about being a Tulsan. I mean,
sure.
I just heard from you earlier, but
yeah,
you're a pretty new Tulsan, so kind of tell me about that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a Tulsan, I love it. I've been here, 9 months, came with the Tulsa Remote program. Absolutely love it. Shout out to all of them there. Initially, when I, first realized that I was accepted into the Tulsa Remote program, I was like, well, Tulsa, let me think about this for a second. Where is that? Is that something that I want, to go and do? And, years ago, my family, we almost bought 200 acres out here in Poto.
Wow.
So we were going to do the whole farm thing. We didn't end up doing that, but, we came and stayed out in Oklahoma for a month. So I was used to, Oklahoma weather. And so, we got here and, the first thing that we got hit with was negative 15 degrees for a week.
Oh my gosh, that was the week you moved
here? That was the week we moved.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was supposed to be hotter.
Normally, yes.
That's what I'm told. So we'll wait and see this winter. But absolutely. Being in the South is considerably different than being on the East Coast. I will say that. That's one thing that I love about Tulsa. People are very inviting, encouraging, and helpful and thoughtful, generally speaking, across the board. In Tulsa specifically, you see a lot of community-oriented things happening, whether that's a project someone's got going on or, a company that's like trying to do some outreach or, nonprofits here in the area. I really like that about Tulsa. I also like that it's warmer. So, yeah.
Yeah, the first thing, I think that is a unique thing to Tulsa. I mean, I'm sure that there are communities out there that are, if you know certain people, you go and tell them about your idea, they'll be the ones to want to help you. But I feel like that's almost everyone here, at least in the sphere that we're in. I have to be respectful of that because we are kind of in a unique space of just like having access to people that want to help and have accessible resources for all of those things. It's huge. Like, and it's huge to the people that are kind of starting from not having those things.
Right.
So
Right.
that's super cool.
Yeah, the city where I spent most of my years growing up in, they're just starting to catch on to the things that I'm seeing here in Tulsa. And so I see Tulsa as like being ahead of the game a little bit in a lot of
Ooh.
areas. So I'm like, let's go.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Ahead of the game is in Tulsa. I don't know if some people would have said that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Here we are though. This is really cool.
So kind of along those lines, like how have any specific communities in Tulsa, and actually I want to expand this a little bit beyond because I know you've only been in Tulsa 9 months, but just how have any communities, impacted you in your professional trajectory?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. I'll start here. This is a good place to start. Years back, I was involved with nonprofits who were really focusing on placing homeless folk back into society in a healthy way. And that really spoke to me. I've actually been homeless before, not, kind of by choice, actually. I really wanted to like get into the mindset of what it's like to have to live on the street, have nowhere to start. And it was a very intriguing journey for me. I was like, holy cow, this is what some people live through every day. And after that, I kind of got involved with nonprofits that's what they did. They worked with people to try to, there's the mental health side, there's the actual practical, realistic side of that, there's the ongoing support. And I did tech for those nonprofits because that's the skill that I had and that's how I could help. But I really got to spend time with the people in the program and all the people running the program. It was really insightful. And I think that really has shaped kind of how I think about opportunity. I think you can come from anywhere. I think you can come from any background. You can still learn as long as you're willing to put your mind to the task. And honestly, some people have problems with that, right? I have, friends and family who don't have the mental strength that they need to. And so you need a lot of support in that area. And that's why I think community is so important at the time. And so like, that's why I'm very inspired by and into supporting communities that help individuals. And you can do that through tech. There's absolutely a way to do that through tech. And, I think that's one of the initial communities that has inspired me to this day. Another community, and my wife probably laugh when she hears this, is the strongman community. So I've always wanted to be a professional strongman. Shout out to Brian Shaw. But like, these dudes are, 6'8", 430 pounds. Like they can deadlift 1,200 pounds plus, massive amounts of weight. The one thing about the strongman community that inspires me so much that's different from a lot of other communities is most of the time, like 98% of the time, the athletes are not competing against each other. They're competing against themselves. And the reason why that makes a big difference is because the guy beside you is not necessarily your enemy, right? Or the guy that you're trying to beat. You're trying to beat your own time. And what that does is that creates a very strong camaraderie amongst all of the athletes. And one thing that I've learned in business is that not everybody out there who might be kind of in your market is your enemy, so to speak. I think there's a scarcity mindset and there's an abundance mindset. I think there's more than enough out there for everyone to do their thing. I think if you niche down and you know what you're trying to do, you can make your business happen. And so really inspired by the strongman community in that, mindset, because I think in business, especially in tech, I've worked with a lot of startups. I worked with a lot of other consultants and they're like, oh, I don't take my client, like, kind of stay away, or they're very protective of it. I'm like, that's fine. There's enough out there for everyone. I think you just have to know who you're trying to help and how you can help them specifically.
Oh, that's a really good call out. Because I think that it's funny, even in the limited amount of like exposure to the technology space that I've had, I feel like I've already come into contact with companies that I think do the same thing essentially and are competitors to each other. But like kind of what you're saying, if you're telling that to like an individual, that means that they might not go chase their dream or whatever because they don't necessarily know if how it's different from something else. And what you're kind of saying is that everyone needs to feel the freedom and liberty from pursuing that, no matter what the idea is, no matter if someone else has done it first, but like see what it's like to have that experience. And then also, I want to be a strongman now that you said that.
Yeah, it's a vibe. I stepped away from that. I was going hardcore, for a couple of years on that. Yeah, I think there's definitely some health issues on that if you pursue it to that level that you can develop that I wasn't willing to risk for. So I was like,
Mhm.
you know what, maybe just functional strength would be okay, and I'll just go with
And
that.
I'll just take the principle of,
Yeah.
my
Right.
friends being my my
Yeah.
coworkers and all
Yeah.
of those things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the community aspect of really developing who you are as a person. I don't know if anyone ever develops in a vacuum, There's always someone that positively or even negatively sometimes can contribute to the path that you go on. And it's really good to hear that you've had great experiences with communities that probably a lot of people don't have experience with, honestly. The homeless community, I think that yeah, I don't want to, maybe state my opinions publicly, I
Sure.
guess, but like I do think that what we all in society sometimes lack is that empathy piece, and I
Hmm.
feel like that's what
Yeah.
you're really seeking through that experience, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah.
And then, maybe also in the same way, the strongman community, like you think of a bunch of juice heads, you don't
Right.
really humanize them that
Right.
often. So,
Yeah.
that's like a good way to think about how to actually help people,
Yeah.
especially individuals and people with ideas,
Right.
and kind
Right.
of leading into your consultancy work. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There's room in the world to grow, and I think if you are putting kindness first and other people first as opposed to profit, I think you'll be a lot more successful than you think you will be.
yeah. Oh, I like that. So I kind of noticed in my circle of interaction with you that you've had some opportunities to teach and mentor folks in kind of the 36 degrees north space and,
Mhm.
and maybe even beyond that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of share with our audience what it's like to be a mentor to folks in that space and kind of like, I
Mm.
guess, just what you do?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, a good question. Yeah. I like to be involved in teaching people that want to learn first and foremost. I think a lot of the people um, that I interact with on a daily basis have that desire and passion to learn. Whether they know a lot or think they know a lot or don't know a lot. I think there's that attitude of like, hey, I'm coming to learn, and I love seeking out and working with people that are humble in that area. Um, yeah, I since I've been in Tulsa, I've had a couple opportunities to teach some classes and have more one-on-one engagements with people, teaching them the things that I know and do, and even just speaking to situations that they're in. That's been good. I really would like to expand that a little bit and do more of that. I'm trying to transition kind of where I'm at in what I do with other companies so that I can have more time to do that. Um, I I'm fresh off the press of learning this whole idea that there's a concept of you can have success at life and you can also win at work. There's a book by Michael Hyatt that I just read called Win at Life, Succeed at Work. And prior to reading that book, I was a very, let's call it recovering workaholic, and I think this book really took it up a level for me. I used to think that, either I had to give up my dreams and just, be living as a human, or I could give up my life and, work my way into some sort of health issue. For me, that was a really hard book to read because it really opened up the whole concept of the double win, which he talks about in the book. So, yeah, I would say this. It's really important to have a good work life balance, but that book really takes it up a notch. So, highly recommend to everyone who wants to read it. What do I do? Yes. If you read my LinkedIn profile, it'll say I help visionaries in with tech startups to get from A to revenue, and that's a really big picture. And I was trying to find the most succinct way to say that. It's really hard, but essentially, what I do is I come alongside tech startup visionaries, so individuals who have a vision for what they want to do, and we can talk about what it is to spot a visionary. But really, I'm looking for those sort of people who have an idea, who've started it, who maybe have some funding, maybe they don't have any, but they're at a certain position with where their company is, and they're like, okay, I've got an idea, I kind of know where I need to go. I need some help from a tech perspective to get this thing off the ground, or I need to reach this revenue goal. Really good example, company I've worked with for, they want to attract bigger clients, like global international clients. But in order to do that, they had to have this special certification, tech certification. So I helped them get that cert. What that does is that allows them to go and attract these bigger clients, make more revenue, business grows. Another good example is, building from the ground up. And, you don't have a product, but I came on board this one particular startup that I'm involved with now. And essentially, I was initially the one to build out the MVP just to see, hey, will this product actually work? Does this make sense? And then after that, we figured, yeah, this works. Let's bring on a team. So I helped build the entire company basically from the ground up, and I think the greatest asset for any companies are people, right? So you have to really know how to team build in that situation. That was really helpful. We found the right people across the globe. Literally, some people were in Poland, North Macedonia, Bangladesh, a bunch here in the U.S., a good portion here in Tulsa. Yeah, so that was that aspect. So yeah, I guess really just helping visionaries practically implement their vision for this tech product or tech company. And it looks different in a lot of different ways, but that's kind of what I do.
Wait, that's so cool. I think I didn't know that. I guess let me just make sure I'm understanding this. It sounds like you join teams, whether that team is one person or two, and then kind of help them build something, and then roll off as you see fit, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
which means that you get to be involved with lots of foundational processes like throughout.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you've been there from the ground up phase to all of these things.
Yeah.
And I think what you said about people is really interesting because, what we do in Tulsa is a lot of helping find the right people and the right people for the right organization.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to basically, I guess sometimes it's difficult to convince someone or a client that, this might be the right person. Like this might be the person that helps you get from A to revenue or even A to B. And I think another cool thing that I wanted to highlight from what you said is that you're helping people that want to learn, have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, if you will, just push it to the limit and kind of push it beyond, I guess technology is a huge barrier is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I've already run into that just in my limited knowledge of certain tech systems and things like that. And technology is growing so fast that if you have people that can keep up, like you're clearly an asset to so many people because the world is growing and changing so fast.
Yeah.
And if companies want to keep up, they need people like you to help them deploy certain tactics. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really starts with in my position, I had to put in the work. 120-hour weeks were the norm for me for as long as I can remember. 15 plus years of doing that, it does take a toll on your body, but you have all these skills, right, that you can then, pivot and do something with that, kind of at the end of the day, be a consultant, right? Be your own boss, right? When you have something to offer to the world. And I encourage people all the time, like the young folk that I talk to is like, hey, if you want to go out there and, not have to work that job that you're working, instead do your own thing, that's great. Maybe think about these other things first before you jump and do that. It is good to have a process in place. Other times it's like, no, dude, just jump, right? I think you're ready for it, and you're really, helping those visionaries kind of grow and build into what they could be before they launch.
Yeah, that you got to tiptoe that line of knowing, trusting yourself, but also trusting the process.
Right. Absolutely.
I've heard those phrases so many times, whether it's my mom or, just general life advice. But
yeah, facts.
Yeah, I think let's kind of dive into that one word that we've heard, that we've been hearing in this conversation of a visionary. And kind of, how do you know if you are a visionary? And what do you typically see in most visionaries that you work with?
Good question. I would say some of it's personality, some of it's discipline. I think those both go hand in hand in any sort of visionary. I don't think you can get the visionaries that I work with, the visionaries that I mentor and spend a lot of time around with, know a couple of things. Like they're disciplined. One, a lot of them do it because they love it, and so thus by loving it so much, they become disciplined in doing that. But I think that's a key element of it. It's like you have the discipline to make yourself do something, sometimes doing things you don't want to do. And then the other thing is that they are. There's a fine balance between being humble and also being able to put yourself out there in a way that people want what you have or are interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, humility and confidence.
Yeah. It's a very fine line to. I at least it's something I struggle with personally. Is like, how do I be humble and how do I show confidence in any given
you
situation?
And me both.
Yeah. So generally, the people that I work with, they're. I don't know. I follow Myers-Briggs personality test and also Enneagram at the same time. So, type 3s, type 7s, a lot of the time I work with, ENTJs. I think there's a level of optimism that they have, right? That they are I can see this beautiful big picture of somewhere that, we need to go. I might not have all the technical know-how to get there, but I know a couple of people who might be able to help me, right? That sort of thing. People who are flexible is, I guess, would say another category. They know how to shift and move. Downs are going to come, probably a lot of downs, but there will be some up times as well. But they know how to navigate those as well, and obviously if you're a newer entrepreneur, you might not have the experience to navigate those ups and downs very well, but there's some natural instinct that kicks in, right? That kind of like helps you through the time. Yeah. And just the more advanced, I guess you could say, visionaries that I work with, that I can tell is like they're practical. They know how to break something down into like, okay, here's basically what I need you to do. How do you take a big picture concept and break that down to practical? And honestly, sometimes I find myself sitting in that seat. So there's a business model system called EOS. Gino Wickman wrote the book called Traction. Based off of that, he created this business system called the Entrepreneur Operating System. And essentially, it's like, hey, here's how you run a business really well. And so there's this visionary, actually, it's called the visionary seat, where the person is the visionary. But then there's a seat that kind of works hand in hand with the visionary called the integrator. And that's the person who breaks down the big lofty goals. It could be the same person sitting in both seats, but there is a specific seat for that integrator, And oftentimes I find myself sitting in that seat a lot of times because I do have the technical knowledge, right, to make something happen. I do have the team building. I do have the financial. I do have the business know-how, right, to make things happen. But I'm able to speak with visionaries because I hang around them a lot. I find them very inspiring. A lot of the times they dream, and sometimes, they haven't been, what's the word, like singed by the world. They just have this pure like vision of what they want and it hasn't been tainted yet. And I love that. I love like encouraging them and they're like, yes, don't lose sight of this. This is a good thing.
Don't get jaded.
That's the word I was looking for. Jaded. Yeah. Like don't,
it's so hard to, I feel like I've been, I guess, victim of that, having this like innocence about an idea or whatever, and then immediately getting, like you said, singed by the world. And it's so crazy to try to put yourself back in that space before you found out some key information, like your whole world changes. And it's crazy. That's kind of also related to like confidence versus humility too, because if someone ever checks you or clocks you on like the way that you present yourself, it's like, how am I been presenting myself to everyone? Like, you have this disconnect in the way that you think it's happening versus the way that it actually is, which I think these are all really important introspection activities that you can do with your friends and with other people to kind of know how to react in situations where you're challenged in those ways.
Yeah. There's something that I've been studying a lot and like growing into is this whole concept of authenticity as a leader. I would say probably in different generations, you wouldn't have seen that pop up as much, right? It was more of being a boss, right? Lording it over people. But there's something about being the servant leader that really speaks volumes to people, especially as a visionary, where when you come alongside people and when you pour into your people, when you help them be the best that they can be, that enables them in turn to help your vision, the company, whatever you're running, right? To be the best that it can be. Someone once said, I forget who, right? Take care of your people and they'll take care of your customers. Right. And that does hold true in this space of entrepreneurship and business as well. But to spot a visionary, I guess, to kind of circle back to your original question, I look for people who are optimistic. I look for people who are confident and / humble. I look for people who are practical, right? And kind of a visionary, knows kind of where they're going. They may not have the clear picture. Sometimes they do, and that's amazing. But those are generally the qualities that I look for in people.
Yeah, and those are great qualities because you basically, like you said, know what you're getting yourself into when you're working with them. Oh, and I wanted to circle back to Enneagram and Myers-Briggs because I think that's a fascinating way to understand like clients and behaviors and things like that. And it's one of those things, I also group astrology into this too sometimes because like it's one of those things that there are naysayers out there that say it's all crap or whatever. But I think that it's, in my personal opinion, it's all based on like what you actually believe and what you put into it. It's the power that you put into it. If I think that most of the time people have really good, they just use it as further introspection or like further investigate, what's going on internally or like with the world around them. My friend was telling me yesterday about how she's run into a bunch of times. If you run into like repeating numbers, like 222 or like if it's 444, like that indicates a certain like spatial time instance that is meaningful in some way. And I was like, my mind was blown hearing this because I was like, there's just so many things telling us what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
you kind of have to be in tune with that. And
Right.
I think that that's kind of what you're saying with your clients and
Yeah.
and knowing the types of, I'm an ESFJ, by the way.
Cool.
I don't know if we'd work well together or not, but
ESTJ. Yeah. I don't know. We can get along. We're doing great so far.
That's awesome. Kind of my last question, just to round us out a little bit,
Yeah.
is how would you suggest for people to get involved and get active in a city like Tulsa? I ask you this because you've kind of done that immediately. I mean, within 9 months, I already knew who you were,
Right.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me about that experience for you.
Absolutely. As a tech entrepreneur human here in Tulsa, if I'm speaking to those people out there, yeah, certainly check out the tech communities here, especially in Tulsa. 36 Degrees North is a great place to start. Like, honestly, it was for me, getting into that community and just hanging around on the couch, at base camp, getting to meet people is a really great way to like figure out who's who and what's what. There's a bunch of newsletters out there you can get involved with. There's obviously Techlahoma. That's another community to get involved with. But honestly, like putting in the work, getting coffee with people, go to Camara across the street, grab coffee with someone or something, or Que Gusto, for lunch, whatever it is, really spend the time to get to know people. I would say it's probably a great way through the 36 community is probably the easiest way if you want to get a pulse on what's going on in the entrepreneur community. I think 36 is the place to be. Yeah, there's a lot of other groups not related to tech, but I'd say just figuring out who's doing what, and going to that center of busyness and talking to the people there really is how I got plugged in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it's right on with just when you have an idea and when you have this vision. I think that sometimes you want that to be a personal thing and you want it to be something that only you can see through sometimes. And I think that 36 Degrees North and kind of my kind of journey into this entrepreneurial space is that collaboration is so easy to do and sometimes like the best direction for a project to head after maybe being insular and being, only a personal thing. You can really expand where that goes as soon as you bring someone in. And that's why community is important to me. That's why community is important to probably everyone on this earth in some way, shape, or form, because it really just allows ideas to spark brighter, maybe than just insular.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that. I think, there's only so far you can get on your own. I think if you end up partnering with other people, be clear about what that partnership looks like for sure. But you will get a lot further, right? People have expertise and just intuitiveness in so many other areas. Who was it? ABBA companies over in China. I forget the owner's name, but he said, I just basically put myself in a room with smarter people than me and made them work together. I was like, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah, it certainly does. So I think it's, if you have a vision and people who are smarter than you in certain areas of that, get them in a room, and have them work together somehow. That's the secret.
Lawrence, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for your thoughtful answers and advice to everyone that's listening to Grow With Us. Can you tell us a little bit about what might be going on in your life and maybe how people can contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. I am going out for a week to Maine to camp to kind of recover. But after that, when I get back, I'm going to be going full-time, like full bore with this one startup called Plato. They're moving into the incubator at 36. So really looking forward to that and working with the team there. Yeah, people can find me on my website, thealpineconsultant.com. Really, that's probably the easiest way. And there's links to all the socials and things there. But yeah, probably the easiest way to get hold of me.
That's awesome. The Alpine, you got a good name for branding.
I tried.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing with us everything that we discussed. I'd like to plug a few resources for our listeners of Grow With Us that might be of use to you.
Cool.
If you would like to stay in touch with all of our featured jobs and opportunities in Tulsa, then please join our talent network. By joining our talent network, you let us know you're interested in working with an in-Tulsa company, and our talent team will make sure you put the right opportunities on your radar. You can join at talent.intulsa.com. That's talent.intulsa.com. Stay tuned for more episodes of Grow With Us about tips and tricks for the job application process, learning more about the amazing communities of support in Tulsa, and the tech and innovation that is driving people across the country to the heartland.